Welcome to another edition of the Friday 13th YouTube channel Metalheads. So, today you're going to be watching an interview with a band called The Cards. If you're not familiarised with The Cards, it's a new band being put together by Paul Quinn from Saxon and Harris Young, who's also been with Doro and U.D.O. This is a hard rock blues band who released two great albums available on Bandcamp. I want to thank Paul Quinn and also Harris Young for doing this interview. Thanks, guys. You guys rock. So everybody out there, please share on social media and Facebook groups. Thanks for watching, Metalheads. Be safe. More interviews coming soon. Rock on, Metalheads.
Aha. Am I working now? Are we
Yeah,
cool?
just a bit more like, oh, there you go. You're there. You're free. So
There we go. There we go. All
finally.
right.
So, guys, I want to thank you. I want to thank
Leave
you
it to the
guys.
Jack. Always a little late, but nice to see you, gentlemen. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm good, man. You?
Nice. Very good. Very good. Greetings from south of Limburg. The Wi-Fi down here is a little funky, but we make do. We make do.
Okay, so guys, I want to thank you for joining me for the Friday 13th YouTube channel. So, first of all, I'm going to ask you guys, how did you hook up? I know, Paul, you were touring with Saxon and Doro was supporting you. Is this where your friendship built up and got talking about
No,
maybe doing something?
he wasn't with them when we were touring with them.
Yeah.
I don't think he's hearing us. No, we
Yeah.
met at
Actually, I
a
came into the
festival.
picture a bit later. Yeah, in the Doro camp.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, what was
Yeah,
that
I
again?
came into the picture a bit later.
Right?
And I remember we were playing a festival down in Geiselwind, Germany. I was playing with Doro there, and Saxon
Mhm.
was also on the bill. It was I forget the name of it, but a cool festival out in Germany. And Johnny D from Doro, out of all people, we met at the reception desk, and Paul happened to be standing there. And Johnny said, "Yo, I think Paul hangs out a lot in The Hague, Netherlands, and you live there, bro. You guys should hang out, dude." And sure enough, Johnny was right, indeed, and we started hanging out about every week, just as friends. Paul and I would meet up and have a few beers and talk about music and talk about life. And yeah, at some point, we decided, hey, why don't we start making some tunes together, man? And the rest is cardstory.
So, Paul, I mean, a lot of people don't are familiarised with your influences. Who's your guitar influences?
Oh, I don't often get asked this. From George Harrison, John Lennon, and Paul McCartney onwards, it would go like um, Richie Blackmore. Well, even earlier, Clapton kind of got me into lead playing, and Hendrix took me further down that route, as did Beck, Page, Blackmore, Steve Howe, Terry Kath. Even he was a heck of a player, Chicago's guy, which kind of makes it easy to hang out with a guy like Harrison, who was a jazzer at heart as well.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
So,
I came from a rock background myself in New York City, but sort of the vocabulary in New York related to music is indeed a jazz vocabulary. And I was always really curious about that. So all the people I played with had gone to jazz school. So that gave me the ammunition to go to jazz school and study that myself. And I swear it's an amazing basis for everything because obviously the blues comes directly from jazz and rock comes directly from blues. There's a clear lineage throughout the history of music in that way. And so the fact that I had backtracked from my sort of modern rock, electronic, whatever background and joined up with the blues somewhere in there, that's where Paul and I met up. And when I found out that aspect of Paul's playing, I mean, which you can clearly always hear in the Saxon stuff, but to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, sorry, Paul, that he was such a blues guy in his heart, yeah, that just gave us a clear trajectory of how to tackle, our first stuff together. Indeed.
so what about you as a bass player? Was the bass guitar came first for you? Was it vocals? What came first for you, Harrison?
I actually started studying piano first when I was about 6 years old. and I was always singing from the time I was a little baby. But yeah, the first formal music training I had was piano, which I think is great for any musician. It's very linear. You can see it all in one line. But then when I was 16 or so, I decided, I think it would look way cooler if I could stand there and hold a stringed instrument. But guitar just had too many strings, so I chose the bass, and yeah, I started going for it, and I learned several albums by ear. I was listening to Tool and a band called Incubus, and just sort of learning how to get those parts down in my fingers. And I played in my own bands a bit on the bass, and I took a long break from it actually for several years, maybe a decade even. I would record on my own stuff with bass. I even recorded bass on the Cards album. But I remember we were actively looking for another bassist when we were sort of thinking about becoming a live act. And then a promoter from Russia recommended that I be the bassist of the Cards to save on cost to fly out a trio instead of a quartet. And I thought, you know what? I'm up for that. And I got my fingers back together, and I'm so glad for that opportunity, because not only do I now really love playing bass and consider it to be like a very strong instrument that I can play, but also just being able to play a stringed instrument and be the counterpart of Mr. Quinn here. That's a privilege I never saw coming in my life.
When you mentioned the Incubus, it wasn't the death metal band, was it?
Mm-mm. No, it was the modern radio rock hit band.
Just checking,
But
just
don't
checking
tell
with
anybody,
Harrison.
Jace. Don't, this isn't going out publicly, is it? Don't tell anybody that.
So, Paul, getting back to you, can you remember your very first electric guitar? Do you still own it?
I don't own it. I know it sounds like a bit of a comedy sketch, like the Yorkshireman sketch, but I've always traded instruments in nearly always until recently. So my first guitar was a cheap Spanish, but I ended up with an electric, oddly enough, Dutch-made uh, Futurama.
Hmm. Lekker.
Lekker, delicious, as he says in Netherlands language,
Yeah.
Netherlandish.
So,
Neanderthalish.
so how many guitars do you actually own now, Paul? How many you got in your collection?
I've kind of lost count, but it's 30 odd.
Wow. Are you selling any? Are you just hanging on to them all?
I might let some go because the storage is costly.
Okay. What about you, Harrison? How many bass guitars have you got? Is it you got as many
I've
as
got a
Paul?
sweet two bass guitars, man. I've got the first one I ever learned on, which is a 5-string Ibanez, and it's near and dear to my heart. But a few years ago, I was lucky enough to get an endorsement from Warwick Basses, which was like a dream company for me. So I have a beautiful Warwick Corvette bass, and I'm always looking for the next. But I mean, it's a solid combo, and I'm really happy with the pair. The 4-string Warwick is killer, and then if I need the 5th string, I've got my nice mahogany Ibanez. But I do have several guitars also. Too many keyboards. My studio is very full.
So who's your influences as a bass player and singer then, Harrison? Are you influenced by people like Glenn Hughes and them kind of people?
Absolutely. I mean, Glenn Hughes is definitely on the list. Jack Bruce is definitely on the list. Um, yeah, but I mean, singers, it's really like I came from a world of, yeah, sort of the theatricality of people like David Bowie and Freddie Mercury. And I mean, that classic rock realm is really what sparked my interest in going like full-fledged into becoming a rock person. Um, and I also like autonomous bass lines. I'm not really sure where exactly I picked up on that or what I heard it from, but I think the bass can certainly always be more than just like the roots tracing the chords. Like if you have a cool bass line that's doing something completely different than what the guitarists are doing, that adds a whole cool new element to the music. Um, so I don't know. I don't know where that came from, actually. I'll have to dig deep and I'll comment on this video once it's posted.
Okay. So when did you guys actually form then? Because like you say, you were getting together and just jamming. You got Koen on drums. How did you hook up with him as a drummer?
Yeah, well, that's part of that Russian promoter story, actually. We had this thing going. Paul and I were sort of making songs informally, with no real clear, just as friends, just to have fun together. Um, but I was playing a gig out in Arkhangelsk, Russia, went back when you could still do that, a jazz gig, and I knew that they had a big blues festival going on out there. So I actually approached the main promoter and said, "Hey, I have something you might be interested in. I have sort of a blues rock project with the guitarist of Saxon, Paul Quinn." And he was like, "Well, I'm very interested in that." So again, it was like, uh, we had to scramble to like sort of make these things on my hard drive into a live act. And I had already known Koen from working with him a bit in the Netherlands. And he's just like, if you know music in the Netherlands, you know Koen Herfs. He's a monster drummer, an excellent guy. He's our buddy. But he was the first person that popped into my head as like the person we must have on board with this. So yeah, luckily enough, we were able to convince him, like, come on this amazing adventure. We're going to fly by night through St. Petersburg up to the Arctic Circle and have a debut show there. And he said, okay, that sounds interesting enough for me. And as I said before, the rest is cardstory.
So Paul, who came up with the name, and why did you decide to call the band the Cards? Are you all jokers? That's the main thing.
Yeah, I think I did.
Well,
So, some kind of joke about how he's a card.
yeah, we are
And
all
maybe
jokers,
decided we are.
indeed.
Yeah. Mm,
Do you
Do
joke a
you?
lot on tour? Do you joke a lot on tour?
mm.
Oh God, it's constant. It's disgusting. It's repulsive how much we joke.
As
Not
as
repulsive
the
jokes, but
non
we're very punny
as the
guys.
yeah as the non-English speaker of the three of us, Coons does the more jokes than us.
I guess so.
It's
But
tournament punster.
So did
uh,
did you have any other names besides the Cards?
actually, the first idea that I had for a name, since Paul and I are both born on 26 December, a few years apart, mind you, was on Boxing Day or something like that. And originally, we were looking indeed for other players that were also hopefully coincidentally born on 26 December. Um, and we got close to a few, but yeah, it veered away from that. And I think the Cards is a perfect name. It's got a lot of implications to it. Like it's all in the cards, it's I think of it sometimes as a more spiritual name of like you play with the cards that you're dealt. And like, yeah, I sort of like it in that sense. And I like the openness of it. I mean, we can go from here, from the playing cards that are behind you to tarot cards. If we get really serious one day, we can be the business cards, you know.
Yeah.
And I just like I like the connotation of it. And I was super surprised that that name was available and hadn't been used before.
So
Pretty
was it
cool.
your intention to do hard rock blues? Because I remember you telling me, Paul, a while ago that you thought I wouldn't like your music, but I'm probably it surprised you that I do.
He did, yeah, at the time. But I always looked on Saxon as being a bluesy rock band anyway.
Especially with your
I,
guitar playing.
Thank you.
I think
We did a few
sometimes
shuffle.
using the word blues can throw people off, uh, because it has a certain connotation to it as like an old man in a hat with a harmonica and, BB King or whatever. But I think more rock than anybody realizes is absolutely blues influenced. And it was highlighted by the tour we just went on. I mean, we went on tour in the UK last month or so, opening for Phil Campbell
Yeah,
at
as you know, I
UK.
was at the Leeds gig.
That's where you were, man. And it's like Motorhead in itself. I mean, you could call them a hard blues rock band, but I mean, Motorhead is also considered to be one of the foundations of modern you know, like heavy metal and rock. They're such an important band in the vernacular. And go down the line. I mean, Led Zeppelin, did they have blues in their music? You bet your ass they did. So we're sort of trying to steer away from using the B word now, the blues word, and just be what we are, which is a rock band, which is based on all that's come before us. Um, and but of course, blues is such a solid foundation for rock and roll. You wouldn't have rock without the blues.
So the first album behind me, great album. Who came up with the artwork for this album? Was it difficult to come up with the artwork, or was it just?
There was a brainstorm we had. Koen and I were thinking about how to present it and how cool it would be to have actual playing cards. And we got in touch with a really cool artist from The Hague named Sophia Den Braams. She's now like a super well-known graffiti artist all over the country and even internationally. And she designed these things for us, and it's just amazing when they came to life. And yeah, it's cool to have our characters that way, and even to be able to hand these things out as playing cards. It's the most fun thing ever to say, like, here, let me give you my card, and it's like our face on the card. It's pretty fun.
So how long did it take to record this album, guys? Was it done in Holland? Did you all get together in Holland? How did it work?
Yep. Yep. Why don't you take that one, Paul?
Yeah, no more than a month or two, I don't think, was it? I think mixing takes longest.
Yeah, I mean, let's say there are 10 songs on that album or so, 10 or 11 songs.
11 songs, 11.
Yeah, 11 songs. So I guess you could say 11 weeks, because every Monday we met up and we wrote a song together, pretty much from start to finish. And Paul had given me this long CD, a very unorthodox way of doing it. Paul had given me a burnt CD of just Paul Quinn riffs. Imagine as a musician getting that from such a guy. Like, here is an hour and a half of ideas that I have. And so I would sort of go through, we would listen to it together, and I would say, like, okay, this part actually could match up with this part, and sort of just arranging Paul's preliminary ideas into song structures. And then I would throw my 2 cents in. And I mean, it was just fun. It was all about having fun together and making cool things that we could say, it's a great tune. But then, like Paul said, yeah, indeed, like mixing, yeah, mastering, that's when it gets real. But oddly enough, it's a fun fact that most of the time when you record an album as a band, you start with the drums, of course, because that's the foundation, that's sort of the click track and the glue of everything. But Koen, as amazing as he is, he did the drums last for this album. So we had pretty much everything, including vocals, recorded. I had demo drums that I had played on keyboard. And then we just brought it to Koen. We muted the drums. We put on a click track, and he nailed it in the studio. And there it was. And we sent it off for mixing with a really great guy named Dan Swano.
Yeah, I know him. He used to be in a band called Edge of Sanity, a death metal band.
Yep. So
how did you hook up with him? How did you hook up with him? Because it's kind of weird from a death metal vocalist as he was.
Yeah. That was all Koen. He had worked with him a bit, or he'd been interested in working with him, and they just connected up, and he was really excited to be a part of it. And he was also excited to have something sort of new and different outside of that death metal heavy realm, and tone it down a bit. So
yeah, he was in a band called Nightingale as well, which were more progressive.
Yeah. Even a band called Ghost before Ghost.
Really?
Yeah, totally. Look that one up.
So guys, I'm going to ask you now, what's your favourite songs from the debut album? As you know, my favourite song is Rock and Roll Rocket Ship. Fucking love that song. You played it live and I was like, oh shit, awesome.
I was dedicated to you, man.
And it was, thank you. So what's your favourite songs from that album? Paul, you want to start that one?
You go first, bud.
I actually like that one of the best, but For You's another favourite.
Yeah, that was kind of sentimental to that. That would kind of brought tears to my eyes when I listened to that. I think I mentioned it to you, Paul, when I texted you one day. It's like I was thinking about my father, and it just brought tears to my eyes. And that song's from the heart. And I know you wrote it, Paul. So love and respect, fella.
Yeah.
Well,
that was without going into too much. What's that?
words. I need Harrison's words to bring it into perspective.
Yeah. And your guitar crying. And without going into too much detail, uh, those words were written directly after the funeral of someone that meant a great deal to both of us. We both attended this funeral, and then I went home and wrote those words just about moving on and letting go, and still hearing people you love and the music that you love make and listen to and whatever. And yeah, that's a totally special song.
It's a very emotional song, both lyrically and guitar solo. You can just feel the whole vibe of that song. It's just a tearjerker, pretty much. Brilliant song. Well done, guys. So, what other songs do you like from this album?
I really like, I think Ride the Freight Train is really cool and eerie. I love singing that song live, and I love the interplay between the bass and the guitar on that song. There's some weird, unexpected things happening that, yeah, I don't know, just when I hit this one bass note while Paul's playing a certain chord, I get goosebumps every time. And I really feel like usually that song is my first moment to really speak to the crowd in a way without holding my bass, and just to have one of those more theatrical moments like I'm talking about. And I also really like The Process because it's a very zany song, and I like whistling a lot.
So, I mean, you guys have released 2 albums now, self-financed. Why haven't you approached any labels? Do you think it's better for you guys to make more money that way, or?
It's not even that. I don't know. I think like it's a passionate project for us, and it's not something we're trying to like necessarily go to the moon with. It's just something that we're keeping in our hearts and keeping control of. And I think if I can speak on your behalf, Paul, as someone who was signed to a label for the past 40 odd years, it's sort of appealing to just have complete control over your life as a musician. There's nobody ever telling us you got to release this now. That single ain't gonna work. That artwork ain't cool. We're the masters of this domain, and that feels really good. And I think that is an appealing thing to Paul. Again, if I can speak on your behalf, coming out of that world, having more control over your own artistic endeavors, right?
I agree.
There you go.
Because I know this. I know you released them both albums on Bandcamp. Is that the only place you can get them? Where else can you buy them? Because if people are trying to get them watching this now, where can they buy them from?
Yeah, they're on all the streaming services, of course, and I think you can even order on Amazon or something. But Bandcamp is the place to get our CDs. Bandcamp is the place to get all our sort of extended merch, the signed editions, the playing cards, some special things. It's a direct link to the artist, and I think it's actually a very amazing, overlooked platform that like more people should get with. It's a really cool connection. It also gives you as an artist a direct link and community to your fans, because when you buy something on there, you're a part of our fan community then, and we can communicate with you the next time that we have something cool coming out.
I mean, this artwork behind me for the singles, cool shit as well. That looked great as a t-shirt. What happened? Why didn't you release it as a t-shirt?
There are t-shirts of that actually on Epic Merch Store. If you go to our website, all of that's there. There's a big fat t-shirt of that. I own one and I love wearing it.
Paul, have you got any t-shirts that you wear, or your band, or that you wear them?
Yeah, I've got one with all 3 cards on, which is the first one you had up, and then I've got a few PQ ones. I think 4 now.
Ooh.
just in case I forget who I am,
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk about the new album, the Jukebox. Who came up with the title for Jukebox?
Generation Jukebox.
Yeah, Generation Jukebox. Yeah.
I think that was my doing. Because we had this, I don't know, a bit of a different concept, like I said, to really drive home that we are now like, we're going rock guys. So it was a very broad form of rock. I mean, all sorts of different eras mashed into one album. So just, yeah, to give a nod to all the people who are listening to us and all the people who lived through the generations when all this music was made. It's Generation Jukebox. You can flip it on and you can hear vibes all the way from Motown up until like Foo Fighters, for that matter, like way modern radio rock. There's everything on that album.
Via Ozzy Osbourne and all sorts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the total Sabbath moments. So it has a bit of everything for everyone.
I know the first album was more rock, wasn't it? More hard edged. This one's, like I said, different direction. Was there a
Yeah,
reason why you
cool.
wanted to go different on the second album?
Hmm. Just what
No,
comes out, you know?
Has it been selling well for you so far as well? Is it compared
Yeah,
to the first album?
it's been totally fantastic reception. I mean, both with digital listens and people supporting us. It was really nice to come back and feel that everyone was still there, despite our gap in releasing. And we've got a really cool fan base of people from all over the world, which is remarkable for an independent band. You know,
yeah.
we ship CDs to Japan, South America, UK, Italy, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands,
Barnsley, Barnsley.
Barnsley. Indeed.
I
Yeah.
mean, when I listen to your guitar playing, Paul, you're totally underrated guitarist, as we all know. You don't get the respect that you deserve. But when I listen to the guitaring on this album, especially the solos, it's kind of reminds me of Tartabar from King's X. But you came before him,
Yeah,
so
well,
is he ripping you
the
off?
Hendrix connections there. You see, we both love Hendrix.
Right,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
definitely you can definitely hear the Tartabar King's X in some of your songs. Do you agree with me on that between you?
Only that we've got harmonies as well as they do.
I think what Paul's getting at is that everything after a while sort of folds back on itself, you know, and it's like wherever any of this came from, yeah, it might start with the same origins of inspiration, like coming from Hendrix or something, but it's like even, you know, bands like Metallica were inspired by Paul's riffs, and it's sort of psycho, like when we were on tour and people like Andy Sneap show up backstage to give Paul respect. And look at what he's doing now as a member of Judas Priest and mega producer that he is. But it's like these are people that I'm sure Paul is also inspired by now, but he had initially inspired them. And I think
Yeah,
that's a beautiful thing about music, that inspiration can also propel itself forward in that way.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. It's very
so
cool to see, and it's very cool to know Paul in that way, and to see all the respect he gets from so many mega people.
absolutely. So, what's your favourite songs from the new album? Obviously, I like The Gamble. That's my favourite song on the new album.
Nice.
Mm.
What you got, Paul? What are your winners?
Um, yeah. What should I choose?
Yeah,
I like the end quite a lot because of its kind of it's almost smoochy.
smoochy and spooky.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that one too.
and the Hermit we enjoyed playing, didn't we?
Oh yeah, it's a great song to play live. It takes a lot to
Uh,
sing that song, but it's a very emotional, cool song for us. And when we came up with that in the studio, we were so excited about it. Just like, oh man, now this is a riff. My favorite though, I really think is Moving On. It's just so,
Yeah,
it's just coolest album opener ever. You know, it's just, it hits you in the face. It's got all these elements to it. And oddly enough, it's like hardly mixed. It's the weirdest thing about that song. All the raw sounds going in were so cool, from the guitars to the trombone to the drums, and it matched up with this Motown aesthetic, which the song has. So Koen and I listened to it again and again, thinking like, do we need to do much further mixing on this? And the answer was like, nah, it sounds damn good. So I just love that one. And also it's just like a little cheeky cardsism, like moving on from COVID, from all that came before, from our last album, just okay, and moving on.
so how long did it take to record this album, guys? Was it a long process or was it shorter than the first album?
I think it was a bit longer because now Paul lives in the UK. So and of course we had those COVID years where it was pretty tough for us to do anything together. But right after that, as soon as the world opened back up, we had about half an album on my hard drive. But then Paul came over to play a special show with me in The Hague, and we used that opportunity to just like go for it. And we recorded like 5 songs live in the room together, which was very special during that time. So let's say it was very slow and then very fast. And once we were there, the finish line was in sight, and we made it happen.
So have you got any new songs wrote for the next album? I presume you're in halfway through it or 3/4 of the way through, I guess.
We've got a few ideas, but Paul's also coming out to the Netherlands in a few months. We're going to play 5 shows out here: Amsterdam, Tilburg, Weert, Ada, and Hilversum. And we're also going to use that time, in addition to rehearsing and playing, to record a few new songs, which we have on the docket.
Yeah, good luck to that. Looking forward to hearing the next album. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you, what happened with Saxon? You left the band. Was it why did you leave? If you don't mind me asking, I did ask you if it was okay to ask.
I don't mind you asking, or even you're asking.
Yeah,
Being pedantic, the stresses of travel were getting to me, and also the stresses of holding a pick for 2 hours. I don't think I've ever dropped more than one plectrum, to be honest. But the left hand still moves okay, but the right hand, it's stuck in this one position and doing this interminably.
I think we all do that when we get a bit excited, though.
No, but Jason, again, if I can speak on Paul's behalf, I don't think people really realize what goes into touring around the world in the way that Paul's been doing for, again, almost 50 years. It's not a joke. You don't teleport there and show up on stage. It's not always the Four Seasons. Maybe it was sometimes for Paul, but it's like, you play a gig in South America, and then you get off stage and the tour manager tells you, okay, guys, rest up for 2-3 hours, and then we're going to meet in the lobby, and you're going to fly to Ecuador tomorrow, and it's going to be a 7-hour flight, and you're going to show up in the afternoon, and you're going to go straight to sound check, and then you can nap on the couch at the venue and play the gig, and then you're going to get right on another plane back to Sao Paulo tomorrow. And like, it can be very brutal, not to talk about champagne problems, but it's like, it's not easy on the body after a long amount of time. And even I have felt that in my life with Doro and U.D.O and the bands that I've toured with. And no offense, I'm a younger guy, so I totally get why Paul was starting to feel these things. And the way we do the cards, it's like, we all decide together, is the vehicle comfortable enough? How many dates are we going to play? Where are we going to stay? It's just a more comfortable situation for Paul. And I've made literal agreements with Paul's family just to treat him well and to think of him when we're on the road together. That's my concession of being in a band with Paul, just to make sure it's not too much for him and that he can still enjoy himself. Because the minute that he doesn't, he shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, much love and respect to you both. Just keep doing it when you can. Just don't put pressure on yourselves. When you're ready to do a gig, do it.
Yeah, amen. That's what it's all about. It's about the pleasure.
Right then. So, I mean, what was it like touring with Phil Campbell and Bastard Sons? You must have been a great little tour for you.
I was quite amazed when he offered it, because it came direct, not through agents, like it's typical of an indie band. That he rang or texted in this case, and I kind of jumped at it after I'd checked with these guys.
It's just such a silly thing, like, to get a screenshot from Paul, and it's like, hey, Phil Campbell just asked if we want to tour in the UK with him for 10 shows. And it's like, yeah, of course we do. That's insane. I don't get texts like that, man. That's so cool. So it was a joy, and they're really super cool guys. The sons are lovely, and the singer, honorary son, is a lovely guy too. And Phil is just awesome. I mean, what's the nickname that Phil has for you and himself?
Oh, right. He's Phyllis and I'm Pauline.
Yeah, Phyllis and Pauline, back in action together again. And man, yeah, just watching these guys reunite and hang out and admire each other's guitars. Again, it's one of these moments that I say, I'm just lucky to be along for this ride with these legends. It's super cool.
Right then. So, Paul, are you going to be doing any gigs with Saxon on the forthcoming tour before we end?
Okay, right. I'm going to do an appearance in Leeds.
See you there,
Couple of
brother.
songs. Oh yes.
So you're
Nice.
are you doing a couple of songs? You're doing a full thing with them.
Just a couple of songs, just a couple of oldies but goldies.
Right, brilliant. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for doing this interview. Much love and respect. Do you have anything to say to the people watching this on YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Jason. Thank you, Jason, for having us. It's
Respect.
always a pleasure to know you. I've known you for like 10 years also, Jason.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I know this dude about 20 years and maybe longer, aren't we, Paul?
Yeah.
Super cool.
Much longer. Probably more like
30 years,
actually
maybe.
I met you when you were in Nipford, didn't I?
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right then, guys. Thank you for your love and respect. Take care. Have a nice weekend, and I'll speak to you soon, Paul Harrison. I'll send you the links when it's online. Please share it. Much appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. We will.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Jason. Keep
Have
rocking.
a nice weekend. Thank you, guys. Much love and respect. Cheers, guys.
Enjoy the new album, folks.
See ya. Bye.